Arthritis is not just an old person's disease. There are currently more than 100 types of arthritis, affecting nearly 60 million adults and 300 children, but mostly middle-aged women and older people. Symptoms include swelling, pain, stiffness, and decreased range of motion that could cause permanent joint changes. Treatments of arthritis are made to manage symptoms and not cure the disease. Today, I'd like to talk to you about two prescription medication that manages symptoms of several arthritis and are both sold in an injectable pen form. We'll be looking into an originator drug, Humira, and its biosimilar Amgevita. I'll present a brief overview of Humira, including their manufacturers, pharmacology, patent life, and market. Speak a little on Amgevita's approval status, which includes jurisdictions in US and their timeline. And we'll end this presentation by comparing both drugs, extrapolation, and pharmacovigilance strategy. Okay, let's jump to it. Humira is the brand name of the drug adalimumab. Humira stands for Human Monoclonal Antibody in Rheumatoid Arthritis. Humira has been approved by the US Food and Drug Administration since December 2002 and has been made available to the public since 2003 by Abbott Laboratories. Today, Humira is manufactured by AbbVie, a biopharmaceutical spin-off company of Abbott Laboratories founded in 2013 in Delaware, US. During the time of this presentation, AbbVie is worth $285 billion US. If you look into Figure 2, it shows us an overview of how Humira is manufactured. Figure 2.1 is an exemplary overview of how phage display libraries are constructed. Humira's phage display libraries are amplified from natural sources called naive libraries, such as B cells of a single non-immunized donor, which is then reconstructed into a large collection of variable region genes of up to 100 billion members. This library is stored in cell banks until it is ready to undergo the selection process of phage display technology. Phage is a virus that lives within natural bacterial hosts. The panning stage, shown in Figure 2.2, has 5 major steps involved. This technique allows the manipulation to produce a fusion of a protein and DNA to highlight the genotype coupling to connect expression vectors with phage DNA and human IgG antibodies. This selection cycle involves 1. Binding phage clones with immobilized antigen, 2. Washing away unbound phage, 3. Extracting bound phage by elution, a process that extracts antibodies using a solvent. 4. Insertion of helper phage to amplify eluded antibodies. And 5. Amplification of antibodies. Panning is repeated 2 to 5 times until desired population of antibodies is achieved. After extensive downstream analysis by ELISA, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, antibodies of CHO cells are then fed in a bioreactor like in Figure 2.3 to prevent nutrition depletion, control concentrations, and yields of antigen. Purification process continues by several chromatography processes as in Figure 2.4 using phosphate and citrate buffers for chemical stability, mannitol and sodium chloride for pH balance, and polysorbate 80 to prevent aggregate formation. And finally, the formulated molecules are pre-filled into these Humira pens at pH 5.2 and a shelf life of 18 months when stored between 2 to 8 degrees. Now let's get into the pharmacological aspect of adalimumab. So we now know that adalimumab is the drug and Humira is the brand. Adalimumab is a drug known as a biological therapy that is a TNF-alpha monoclonal antibody which works as an anti-inflammatory drug to treat several types of arthritis. Monoclonal antibodies are synthetically engineered molecules used to substitute our antibodies to restore, enhance, mimic, or modify our immune system's attack on unwanted cells. On our right, we see an overview of the pathway taken by adalimumab to achieve this. At the top, we have a schematic image of adalimumab. Antibodies in adalimumab are designed to bind to TNF-alpha and block both type 1 and 2 of TNF-alpha receptors. This reduces inflammation by cytotoxicity, apoptosis, reverse signaling, and up and down regulation of specific cells. This inhibition also negatively affects our immune system and lowers our ability to fight infections that may cause other serious side effects, So always remember to seek professional medical advice before taking any new medication. For now, AbbVie has secured Humira's formulation patent, which expires on January 31st, 2023. I've included on this slide a copy of AbbVie's main patent on Humira in Figure 5 that protects the antibody formulations and claim to the methods techniques used to manufacture adalimumab. AbbVie's strategy in patent applications for Humira has been aggressive since its launch in 2003. The Patent Office has recognized AbbVie's innovative work beyond the invention of Humira antibody itself, granting AbbVie 100 patents related to adalimumab. I'd also like to add that no drug has as many patents as Humira in the US. An overview of their current patent holding is shown in Figure 4. Their prolonged dominance in the anti-inflammatory drug market in the US has not come without its fair share of legal battles, but that would take way too much of our time today to talk about that. On the bright side, this dominance isn't going to continue for much longer. From 2023 onwards, other competitor biosimilar companies, including Amgevita, are allowed to launch in the US and enter the adalimumab drug competition. Projected release of other adalimumab biosimilars are displayed on Figure 6. In Figure 7, I've included past analysis of other similar drugs to Humira. Since its launch in 2003, Humira has been constantly on the top in drug revenue. This figure shows that Humira's sales have been winning in the global inflammatory drug sales since 2009. However, sales are unlikely to grow as exponentially as it has from 2023 onwards, especially after the release of biosimilars in the year 2023 in the US. Which brings us to our next slide. Humira's main market sales are from the US. As I explained in a few slides ago, their aggressive approach in the patent applications in the US have given them sales exclusivity within the adalimumab US market, meaning that approximately 58% of their global sales are from the US, shown in Figure 8. Humira has been the world's best-selling drug from 2012 to 2021 and would most likely be the #1 best-selling drug in 2022 if it wasn't for the pandemic. This year, the best-selling drug is, to no one's surprise, COVID-19 vaccine Humira by Pfizer. Since its launch in 2003, AbbVie's reported global sales of Humira is estimated to be more than $115 billion in 2018. This makes it the second world's top-selling drug of all time after the heart drug Lipida, which has been around for 25 years and has estimated overall sale of $300 billion. In 2019, a 2-pen box of Humira, like in Figure 9, retails for almost $5,200, following AbbVie's 6.2% increase on the medicine. Rebates for Humira averages around 40%, so that means US patients who are on typical doses are paying more than $40,000 per year for Humira, which costs about the same as a Tesla Model 3. Now let's get into Amgevita's part of this presentation. Amgevita was the first FDA-approved biosimilar of 2016. It is owned by Amgen and is a biosimilar drug to Humira. The first thing to understand about biosimilars is that they are a complex biological product in a living system. Because it's a living system, it's more difficult to control in the same way as you would something that was going to be chemically synthesized. There is no abbreviated approval pathway for biological products, so the only way to come to market is to have a full data package, which can be very expensive to develop. In 2010, Congress signed a law that allowed FDA to approve biosimilar products for those that use biological therapies, either prescribers or patients. It's well known that biologics are very expensive, so it's good to have that competition in the marketplace to ultimately reduce cost for patients. Humira patients in the US will be pleased to know that the cost of the biosimilar Amgevita will be around 15 to 30% less than the cost of Humira. The first step, as seen in Figure 10, for the FDA to legalize the biosimilar licensure to Amgevita is to do an analytical comparison of the structural and functional compounds. They look the same, has the same primary sequence, and the same type of tertiary structure that helps in its function. Then clinically meaningful differences between the two products are compared because the analytical comparisons can only tell us so much about the comparison between molecules and how similar they are, but there is some residual uncertainty that would remain about how it performed in a patient. To achieve this, the FDA looks for additional studies, including pharmacokinetics, which is the drug exposure in the body. Does it relate in the body the same, to circulating in the body the same way, and is it getting to the same place in the same way to exert its clinical effects? Then, other types of clinical tests with different types of endpoints are investigated. Through this approval process, FDA will not approve biosimilar products if they don't believe that the data supports that Amgevita and Humira can be labeled for safe and effective use. FDA's standard to approve a product and to label a safe product effective for its intended use is the same regardless of the pathway. This ensures the patient and the healthcare community to have confidence after applying these rigorous standards. Both biosimilar and originator products are safe and effective. Indications refer to health benefits for the general population or for specific subpopulations. In our case, would be those who suffer from inflammatory diseases such as arthritis. I've included figure 11 from a cross-study performed by Amgen that was included in their biosimilar approval agreement. In their study, they compared the results across 350 patients who were put on 3 different treatment plans. One group received Amgevita during their whole study, one group received Humira, and one group received both Humira first, then switched to Amgevita halfway through their study. Figure 11 shows their summary data of the mean percentage of improvement in all participants throughout treatment cohorts, and they all improved similarly from their baseline over their 50 weeks of study. This shows promising indication that Amgevita can be used by Humira patients as a substitute. I've also included this timeline of when Humira was first approved by the FDA and following it when Amgevita came along. Amgevita has had its battles trying to enter the US market, but their battle has finally paid off with their expected launch in January 2023. Before Amgevita's launch of Humira, patients had to go to the hospital to receive their medication intravenously or mix batch their own medication at home, which was difficult for patients with inflamed joints to inject themselves twice a week. As a result, AbbVie's dedication and innovation, patients can now inject the medicine at home using pre-filled syringes and take fewer injections. Pharmacovigilance is important to establish the long-term safety and efficacy of the medicines, including biosimilars. Both drug companies have made serious commitments to continue their rigorous exploration of the safety and efficacy of their respective adalimumab drugs. AbbVie currently has 3 and Amgen has 4 committed ongoing trial studies approved by the FDA to demonstrate their vigilance in pharmacology. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you've learned a few key information of both drug companies, AbbVie and Amgen. Both adalimumab drugs shouldn't be considered lightly. Side effects of both drugs may have serious consequences, so always remember to consult your doctor. Until the next video, take care and thanks for listening.